more fun tomorrow. See you later. This is a guy we should be adding. And if you add him this week, you loved life, because he was coming off not just a great Sunday last week when we were ahead of that curve, but also a great Thursday night football as well. So last week, 7 for 9 for 164 and a touchdown. This week on Thursday, 5 for 5, 77 and a touchdown. He didn't even play the first 2 weeks of the year, and he's already a top 10 tight end in scoring, if you can believe it.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Travis Hunter, Joe, is a part-time wide receiver. As I've told people from the moment he was drafted, there's zero chance long-term that they'll continue to do this in terms of playing offense and defense. They're going to have to pick a position with him. Brian Thomas, he was unbelievable. Talking to the Jaguars about him last season, he was so far ahead of schedule where they thought he'd be super smart. He had a wrist injury, by the way. We need to mention that, Joe, earlier this season.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
SMU is undefeated. You got Louisville that knocked off Miami. Yeah. Miami has one loss. There's multiple teams that potentially can make a run for an ACC championship. So their backs are still against the wall. Like, Georgia Tech is not a shoo-in right now just because they're undefeated, because they still have to play Georgia at the end of the year as well. Even though it's out of conference, that can knock them out of the playoff.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
$17,848 have been bet on this question, Joe Akaushi. How many pro football games will Taylor Swift attend this season?
They average an average of 9.3 games during this season here, and a lot of that has to do with her reduced touring schedule, and this maybe being his final NFL season.
Incredible stuff here.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Right here on SportsGrid, it is Game Time Decisions, and it is a great Tuesday that we have on our hands. Kevin Walsh with you from the Decisions Desk as we take a look at the impact of a pretty surprising NFL trade deadline. You did not have a ton of teams making moves, but you had the New York Jets heavily involved with some star players shipped out. It began with Sauce Gardner, their franchise cornerback, heading over to Indianapolis for 2 first-round picks. A lot of people pro-Jets in that move. I'm a little bit more hesitant and reserved in that praise on this one. I think the Colts become a fascinating conversation. The second big move was a trade of Quinnen Williams to the Dallas Cowboys for a first and a second-round pick. This trade, I think the Jets would have made if they were 7-1 instead of 1-7. That's how much of a no-brainer this felt like for the New York Jets. And maybe the next biggest headlines were, this is where it stopped for New York. No Breece Hall, no Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson. The rest of these guys all stay with the Jets following this trade deadline. You did have a couple of other key moves that will, at minimum, impact certainly prop markets for this upcoming week. Jacoby Myers is in Jacksonville, and Mason is wide receiver 1 for Trevor Lawrence for the next couple of weeks with Travis Hunter on IR, and potentially Brian Thomas Jr. Could be out for a little bit of time. Rashid Shaheed from New Orleans makes his way to Seattle. Does he impact any of your Jackson Smith and Jigba props? I think those are all very interesting questions and all things that we will dive into here on this Tuesday. I'm sure it could be factored in some capacity during our target player props tomorrow. We will get to all of that. We will also get into the Week 10 NFL slate. And yesterday, we had Arizona versus Dallas, a double-digit win for the Cardinals as Jacoby Brissett continued his great play. I was wrong on this game. I laid the 3 with Dallas, and I am not someone who would say, if you would have told me, though, that Arizona scored 27, we would have had a chance. No. I was not expecting Jacoby Brissett to keep up this level of play that he has continued to give Arizona. And the level of play that you are seeing for Jacoby Brissett has now kept him as the starter for the Cardinals. The reports are that Kyler's not really healthy enough to come back, but even if he was, the job would be Brissett's. So it will be Jacoby Brissett taking on Seattle in one of the more interesting Week 10 games that we will get into. On this Tuesday night, you also have the first unveiling of the College Football Playoff Committee's Top 25. This is the beginning of what will be a weekly update from this committee of how they rank the best teams in the country. So we thought it would be appropriate here on Game Time Decisions to give you a Kevin 7 tiering out the college football playoff contenders. And we will do these tiers throughout our show tonight. It's not going to be all at once. We're going to build up into those rankings, which are 8 o'clock. I'll tell you, this is as happy as I have been with a Kevin 7 leading into it. I think we've got this right, and you will not see this anywhere else. This, I am telling you, I firmly believe that this is a perfect lens to look at these teams heading into the first unveiling of these rankings, and do expect some market movement off of the initial rankings. There will be a team or two higher than expected, lower than expected by the committee tonight. That committee, though, better not get, sidetracked. There's big games on tonight as we begin MACtion. One of the great traditions in college football. As we enter into November, the MAC begins their midweek action. 2 games at 7 o'clock. Ohio hosting Miami of Ohio with a short 2.5 line. I'll tell you, I looked into this one, applied a little bit of spread math. The Bobcats jumped out a little to me. This number has worked against them, though, so I may not be involved too much in that football game, but it did stand out a little bit as potential value on the home Bobcats. You then have Akron laying a huge number as UMass has seemingly not been able to adjust to joining the MAC. This team is sitting 0-8 and are catching, again, a big-time number tonight against Akron in their first taste of MACtion as a college football program. We do have day number 2 of college basketball on our hands. Yesterday, freshmen really stealing the show. And not just the late-night 21-point performance from A.J. Dybonsa as BYU gets a win, but no cover against Villanova. The standout performer of the whole slate, potentially, Koa Pete, a 5-star freshman for Arizona who had 30 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, and a block on 61% from the field. He took it to a Florida team that I am betting to win the national title, and I didn't watch that game and say, oh, I way overvalued Florida. Arizona took it to them. Despite being down early, I thought they were very impressive. That is a good Wildcats group. No panic whatsoever on this Florida team, but they certainly got themselves a wake-up call on night number 1. The number 1 team in the country is live right now. That is the Purdue Boilermakers. They are playing Evansville as a better than 30-point favorite. You have some 30-point numbers tonight for both Kentucky and Texas Tech, a pair of top 10 teams. And then you get number 6 Duke to round out that great freshman class. You will see Cam Boozer tonight take the floor. No cheapies on these Boozer props tonight if you are playing in states eligible for college basketball player props. That number's near 20 for points. It's well over 10 for rebounds. Duke is laying double digits against the Longhorns as they look to try and cross the finish line with a very, very good roster. It is not lost on me, Duke, who I did last year pick to win the national championship, and that's about as good as you're going to feel about one that doesn't get through the finish line. They were the best team in the country. Pretty much no one disagrees with it, but they choked away a game to Houston in the Final Four. And the way that roster was built, a lot of those guys are gone. They're now playing and contributing in the NBA. They bring in another great class with a couple of holdovers. We'll see what Duke has tonight as they try and get their first championship for John Shire this year in taking over for Coach K. What about your action tonight on the NBA or NHL slates? The Ice has plenty to give you on a Tuesday. You do have the Montreal Canadiens off to this great start at home against the Flyers, laying a decent number. Edmonton in action again. Connor McDavid with 2 assists in his most recent outing, up to 19 points on the season. They are a slight dog, though, to the Dallas Stars. All different things you can keep your eyes on. For the NBA tonight, lighter night on a Tuesday. It starts at 7:30. Raptors-Bucks is that opening game. Giannis is in. Certainly important for those of you who play the King of the Court promo over on DraftKings. Giannis is the favorite. I think the favorite has won each of the first 2 nights. I think opening night, the favorite was Luka. He got it done. Last week, it was Giannis, and he got a share of that pot with Tyrese Maxey. Maxey in action again tonight. An interesting one late night in the West. The unbeaten Oklahoma City Thunder make the move to play an LA Clippers team who look to stay above 500. If not, they will fall to 3-4 to start their season. So plenty of interesting stuff to get into tonight here without this card throughout this night. We're going to key in on your NBA slate a little bit with the help of Brian Fonseca next on the show. Really excited to see what he has lined up for tonight's card and some of his takeaways from the first 2 weeks of this NBA season. That is next, and it is right here on Game Time Decisions, live on SportsGrid. There's a far longer track record of the Chiefs laying huge numbers and not covering them with Mahomes than anything on the contrary.
And they did that a lot last year where they didn't cover those numbers, but a lot of the time last year they didn't have Rice and they weren't fully healthy, and now they are fully healthy. And now we have an offense that has 4 viable receivers, 2 tight ends, and 2 running backs.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think if you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in, Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in a football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, you know, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Game Time Decisions, we are with you here on a Tuesday night, and there is one NBA game that, looking back already, now, you know, we're a segment into the show. I wish I mentioned more, but it turns out I didn't need to because Brian Fonseca has it covered. You can catch his work really all across, does excellent stuff everywhere covering the NBA. But Brian, the game I'm referring to is Pelicans-Hornets, where LaMelo Ball's out, shock, Zion's out for a week or more. Shock. And yet, your favorite game on this slate tonight?
Correct.
Tell me more about it.
Basketball sicko, like the person
Yeah.
here, who watches Asia Cup and Eurobasket and the America Cup and the Afrobasket during the summer, where we don't really have much else other than WNBA and baseball. I looked at this slate and I was like, you know what? Pelicans first half minus half a point. Why not? You know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm going to win all these bets because it's gambling at the end of the day. You might go, if you have 4 on the game, like I do in this game, you might go 4-0, you might go 0-4, you might go 2-2. I haven't been awesome to start the year because, the injuries are hard to project. I don't know if you've seen this, but this in my life, I don't remember a time other than maybe last year because it keeps getting worse, where NBA players are just constantly on injury reports. Like these injury reports are longer than, I can't make that joke, but they're very long injury reports is what I'll say. I just, the Con Knipple over 12.5 points, which has already moved to like 14.5, 15.5 with LaMelo Ball's injury. Wanted to get ahead of the market on that. My guy Joe Delera likes Trey Murphy. PRA. This was 26.5 before Zion was out. And I was like, you know what, Joe? I think Zion might be out. Let's ride. And Zion's out. So
there you go.
There's more, but this game is what I'm going to have on the small screen because something else non-sports related will get big screen treatment tonight in New York City.
Yeah, listen, this is a game that I am waiting. I have a little bit of extra time. It's not, it's not going to tip for another hour and 15 minutes. I kind of want to play the over because it's continued to drop due to the absence of these stars. But I think both teams will just kind of play with pace and fluidity a little bit here tonight. It's not a move I've made necessarily just yet. You did mention something, though, Ryan, and kind of backing Con Knipple, that this rookie class is off to as fascinating a 2-week run, at least for me in recent memory, because there's a lot of guys who are hitting the ground running, and one of them is not Cooper Flagg. And I don't know if you were on an island. I know I was not. I thought Cooper was the best player in this class without a shadow of a doubt. Now, I was still willing to fade him in the Rookie of the Year market, but that's a value thing, right? I am still stunned at the way he looked. Like, to me, if the season ended today, and I know it doesn't, but he wouldn't be first-team all-rookie.
He will be. He will be. Just because we just expect that. If whether or not he would be now, I don't know. Maybe still because of the name. But I loved VJ Edgecombe coming into the draft. And I loved VJ Edgecombe coming into the draft because in New York, he played at Long Island Lutheran, one of the best high school programs that New York continues to produce on a year-in, year-out basis. And also, as mentioned, Sicko earlier, watched him on the Bahamian national team in Olympic qualifiers in 2024 when they played in Spain, when they played against Spain in the finals, nearly sent the Bahamas to the Olympics for the first time. And Spain ended up winning that game. What ended up happening was VJ Edgecombe was just casually trying to dunk on everybody possible, turning defense into offense. His jumper was a little shaky, but you can see the foundation there. And the athleticism just off the charts, and the defensive capabilities just off the charts as well. And this was somebody who hadn't played a game at Baylor yet. So he was fresh out of high school and in this tournament in Spain. I'm forgetting where in Spain, but in Spain regardless. So that said a lot to me. And then he goes to Baylor and the context isn't great. The point guard situation is just weird. I didn't feel like it was the best fit for him. But I took a shot on him at plus 900, 1,000, 1,100, 1,200, something along those lines. Rookie of the Year, just in case Cooper Flagg, has a more difficult year because it's just a weird situation in Dallas. And I don't like the whole point guard experiment that they're putting him through. But I have other rookies I can talk about for sure in this class, like Con Knipple, for example, who I'm on tonight, free the nipple. Hopefully he can make his threes and continue to have a very good game tonight with LaMelo Ball's absence. But with VJ Edgecombe, I think he's a faster developing Victor Oladipo. Because Victor Oladipo, remember, he was a little bit older when he came out.
Yeah, this is, again, not that I needed a reminder, but an easy reminder of why Brian is one of my favorite people to talk to very consistently. So I played a little Edgecombe as well, and I think one of the benefits as well for him, Brian, and I don't know if you are buying the 6-game sample size, but I was buying it before the year. I think the Sixers are really good. I think they are incredibly live to win the East, and I think all of the injury stuff. So the injury stuff last year was all downside. This year, I think it's all upside. Paul George hasn't played. I think he should come back off the bench. I don't think Paul George being out is not a negative for this basketball team. Embiid's averaging basically a point a minute.
Yes.
To start the year.
I said that last night. I said this last night on Buckets.
It's crazy, Brian. Where are you at on Philly right now?
Can I tell you my favorite preseason bet? Single favorite bet. Tyrese Maxey to lead the league in scoring at plus 10,000.
That's crazy. Good for you. Never saw that coming.
Could not believe. Look, I don't know if I'm going to win this. We'll see. He's at 33.7 right now. It could drop. Maybe 32 is enough. Maybe 31 is enough. I don't know. He's going to be in that conversation. I took him over 28 points a game, took him over 30 points a game, or at 30 or at 28, because the preseason average was in that 26.67 range or something along those lines. I think Maxey is ridiculous. I think his ceiling is legitimately a top 10 guy in the NBA. And I think if this team continues to tilt more toward Maxey and Embiid becomes their number 2, because he's, you can't have him as a number 1 anymore, just on a night-to-night basis, the trust and stuff. If McCain's good when he comes back, I don't know what the Paul George situation is going to be, but I do think if Philly can get somebody, if they can get somebody during the season, get somebody else to sort of help round out this top 7, 8, so to speak, I think they could be real dangerous. I agree.
We're going to talk a little bit more NBA on the other side of this break. We're with Brian Fonseca. It's Game Time Decisions. We're live on SportsGrid. There's a far longer track record of the Chiefs laying huge numbers and not covering them with Mahomes than anything on the contrary.
And they did that a lot last year where they didn't cover those numbers, but a lot of the time last year they didn't have Rice and they weren't fully healthy, and now they are fully healthy. And now we have an offense that has 4 viable receivers, 2 tight ends, and 2 running backs.
Game Time Decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in. Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz. Only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in the football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor, because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Back right here on Game Time Decisions. We're in the commercial break. We are reminiscing on the good old days of Iona basketball. Don't worry, though. Friday, the Dan Giroux era begins. I want to quickly put some best bets on the board because from behind the scenes, you do have a 7 o'clock kick, which is the UMass Minutemen catching 12.5. That's Sam's best bet. AJ's going to back Texas at 10 and a hook. I'm on the Clippers team total tonight, 105.5. We see it all the time in the NBA where it's like, oh, a guy's out, nothing you can do. Kawhi's out because it's a back-to-back, even though he just said I'm going to play on back-to-backs. Again, Kawhi and lying, I'll let Pablo handle the rest of that. But at the end of the day, that's a good bet to me against OKC, who are right now playing a lot of bad offenses. Now, their ability as a defense is a big part of that. But we're here with Brian Fonseca. And Brian, I do want to ask you about Oklahoma City specifically because it's only 7 games, so I'm not saying it should be a big talking point. But I think if this team gets to like 11-0, we're going to start to hear when do they lose? Become a big thing with this team. Where were you at on OKC, like wins-wise? What were you seeing for this team coming into the season?
60 to 65 plus, probably the favorites to win the title again.
Yeah.
Like, I just, you can get creative. And to me, I did in one thing I filled out. I was like, I just picked Denver because it's hard to repeat, but I don't have a logical case why it shouldn't be OKC. Like, I just think they're ridiculous. They also have depth. They have players that they're just spawning that are better than you think they are, that are going to get real minutes. Jalen Williams, like, that situation is weird, and they haven't really needed him at all. As a matter of fact, they've, other guys have been able to play and develop. Jalen Williams, the other Jalen Williams, the big Jalen Williams, it has been, admirable in replacing, for example, Chet Holmgren, who, by the way, is going to come back tonight. AJ Mitchell, obviously, I've seen a surprising amount of AJ Mitchell this year. Just like I remember coming into the season in that very first game against Houston, I was like, wow, there's a lot of AJ Mitchell in this game. He was averaging a shot per minute at one point, but he looks like he's going to be a player. Like, this is a team that could still go just very, very deep, embarrassment of riches. And if they really want to get aggressive as a front office, they can add somebody too. Like, that's just sort of the other thing. Like, they did this last year with Hartenstein and Alex Caruso, and there's a world where they could just do that again.
Yeah, this is the thing that fascinates me with them, is if they can be historic, 70 plus, and the market's not moved a lot on this. It's the only way he can win the award, though. But it's Mark Daigneault, Coach of the Year. I know that I know it would be atypical for this team to win the title, but it is what happened with the 73-9 Golden State Warriors. Off a title and a ton of wins, Kerr won 73, and he was Coach of the Year very easily. I don't know if that's a market you're into, if you're invested in already, Brian, but I've tried to make the case to a few people that Daigneault has value still at 20-1 because OKC to win 70 games is not 20-1. It's more than half that.
Yeah, it's going to be either a really good team or a shocking team. Like, if the Spurs actually sit in the top, like, 3.
Wait, so, can I ask you about that? If they win 50 games, why is it wouldn't it just be Wemby?
Right.
As opposed to pretending like, oh, it's the coaching. Like, I don't know why that,
So can I throw another name at you that I strongly considered?
Yeah.
Strongly considered in the preseason was like, what if the Heat are a 5 seed and win 47 games?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Spoelstra doesn't have one. And if you're going to give it to any, it's like these are all narrative awards. Mm-hmm. Daigneault has the great team. Mitch Johnson has the great player. If the Nick Nurse, there's a Nick Nurse case. If the Sixers do what you think they're going to do, and what we both agree that they're capable of doing if things break right, but they rarely break right for that team. If Spoelstra has this team post Jimmy Butler with just Powell and Bam, who looks like he might be an all-star for a 4th time this year. Hero when he gets back. We'll see what happens with the rest of the guys, and some of their young guys pop. Like, I entertained the possibility. I bet they're over 36.5 wins because it was too low. I think they're probably 500-ish. But I entertained the possibility in this Eastern Conference where it's like, what if they win 46, 47 games and they're just the 5 seed?
Yeah, I'll add too. I think, and I know that's not why they were on the prime set with UD, but that was some decent PR. As they explained, they completely changed their entire offense, and it's now just high-level AAU basketball. Like, it doesn't hurt the case. Brian, it's a great to talk to you as always. Little NBA. Best of luck throughout the night. We'll talk to Coach James Young next. There's a far longer track record of the Chiefs laying huge numbers and not covering them with Mahomes than anything on the contrary.
And they did that a lot last year where they didn't cover those numbers, but a lot of the time last year they didn't have Rice and they weren't fully healthy, and now they are fully healthy. And now we have an offense that has 4 viable receivers, 2 tight ends, and 2 running backs.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think if you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in, Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz. Only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in a football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, you know, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Game Time Decisions, we are live with you right here on SportsGrid. It is a Tuesday night. We have some college basketball live. We've got some college basketball coming up. Same with the NBA. But we are also still waiting on the college football playoffs unveiling from the committee for the first time. So tonight, you will be getting Kevin Seven tearing out the college football playoff contenders. We will do this throughout the hour. So I want to just give the people Tier 1. Tier 1, already in. Ohio State, Indiana, and Ole Miss. Now, I know 2 of these will be heavily agreed on, which is Ohio State and Indiana. There are sports books who are already posting the odds for these 2 teams to play in the Big Ten championship game. It is hard to imagine either one of these teams losing again, much less twice this season. They are in. But so is Ole Miss. Let's be realistic. They have only 3 games left, and one of them is against the Citadel. At 10-2, you'd project to be in. They are not losing 2 more games. The 2 remaining games, one is home against Florida in arguably the most important game of Lane Kiffin's life, with all of the rumors, connections, and the fact that Florida last year beat Ole Miss to knock them out of the playoff. You're not losing that game. And then the closeout is a rivalry in the Egg Bowl against Miss State. And I am not trying to discount a rivalry, but Ole Miss is much better than a Mississippi State team who has struggled to get off of the mat and do anything in the SEC this season. These 3 teams are already in the college football playoff. We'll get to Tier 2 and so on and so forth throughout our show tonight. But we bring in Coach James Young, host of both Pro Basketball Today and College Basketball Today. JY, it is great to have you on a packed Tuesday night. How did you enjoy opening night of the college basketball season?
Well, listen, the play of the freshmen was phenomenal. I know DeBanza missed some layups and some free throws. Darren Peterson is a stud. The kid from Tennessee played well. Sinak had a decent game. We could talk about the kid from Arizona. I mean, we're sitting here talking about, like, who's the number one draft pick? There are 4, 5, 6 legitimate studs. And we haven't even talked about Boozer, who plays tonight in a couple of hours versus Texas. So I was just really excited about the basketball. Went to go watch Seton Hall last night. They look markedly better this year. They have a kid they call Baby Shaq, a kid out of Plainfield, named Hines. I call him Duncan Hines because he was dunking and blocking everything. So it was good to be in. Kevin, Saturday, JY, MSG, St. John's. And
it's a big game.
It's a big game versus Alabama, and I'll be there at the Garden. I'll do some update for SportsGrid maybe.
Coach, I'm just curious, and we'll get into some of the games tonight across the landscape. But was there a team in the national title market who was really catching your eye, whether it be value or just, hey, this is the best team heading into this college basketball season?
Well, I wanted to kind of see the first couple of games play. I think you're really at a two-team race to me between Purdue and Houston because of the mixture of continuity and experience, Kevin, to along with getting either the transfer portal or stud freshman. For instance, tonight, I know game's already halfway through the first half. I took Evansville's team total under 57.5 versus Purdue. Purdue's sneaky good defensively. They were top 60 at defensive efficiency last year. Remember, Jacobson, the 7'4 center, who was a McDonald's All-American, remember, only played 3 games last year, comes back into that lineup for Purdue. I thought they were dangerous. And, of course, you got to always look at a Kelvin Sampson team, but the way Arizona looked last night, you got to start to look at them in the mix. And I know people are going to say, it's going to take Florida when you have 2 guys like Lee and Flan. They got to learn how to play off each other. There were moments they looked great. There were moments they tried to do too much. Florida's going to be just fine. Loved how Thomas Howell came out aggressive with 27 points last night.
Yeah, I agree that Florida is going to be just fine. I think it is telling that you played a Purdue team total and it was the opponent under instead of their over. I think that's an encouraging sign if you're someone who believes in this Purdue team, that coach is looking to back them defensively more so than offensively, because that is a lot of the hype, if not all of it, has been on who they are offensively. Just curious, JY, we have plenty of time. We're going to get into this NBA card. Did you play anything on this college basketball slate? As you mentioned, a lot of eyes on the Boozer twins making their debut against Texas.
It's amazing. I'm going to take the Duke game versus Texas, but I'm going to play under the 153.5. Okay. I want people to understand this because even if they look at Duke and they look at all the studs, John Shire actually, they don't run the ball up the floor. They were 274th in pace of play. They're more comfortable making it a half-court game. I think Texas is going to want to make it an up-and-down game. But because of Boozer, I think they dominate the glass, and that negates runouts, and that negates getting in transition. Duke takes care of the ball. I'm worried about that line being 10.5, but I'm going to play under 153.5. I think Sammy or AJ played Texas plus the points. I don't mind that. I think it's going to be a close, low-scoring game tonight.
Yeah, you're right. AJ is on Texas. Sam's on UMass coming up here. You see my Clippers team total. We'll talk more about that team in just a little bit here with Coach JY. But I agree with AJ's. I think Texas is tempting a little bit here. I don't have a great feel for this current Duke team because Boozer comes in with expectations, JY, that are really Cooper Flag-esque. That makes me a little uncomfortable. I don't think it is very dangerous to undersell who Cooper Flag was last season, which was the best player in college basketball and one of the best freshmen we've ever seen. That is a lot to put on a guy. This team lost a lot, right? Malawach and Knipple were both top 10 picks. Sion James is already starting for Charlotte. I know they're injured, but that says a lot about this team. Tyrese Proctor left as well. But there's excitement for guys that are still there. Isaiah Evans, Caleb Foster, Igbana, the big man, Pat Igbana in the back. So, how much are we going to see out of Caden Boozer, right? Like, it's the Boozer twins. When I say I don't know how to feel about this team entering the season, I think it's partly because JY, and listen, I know they didn't get there, but you know how confident I was in last year's Duke, right? I see a vision for this year's Duke. The kid Sarr, right, the international, I think he could be, but I think it's going to take, I think it's Dame Sarr, it's going to take Shire a while, I think, maybe, JY, to figure out who that lineup is this year. How deep is he going to run? Not everybody, sometimes depth, you know this, Coach. You know, John Calipari ran that platoon squad, right? You know, it takes a lot to get guys to buy into 5 in, 5 out. I think it's going to take Shire a little bit to find a rhythm with this team this season.
And I agree with you, and that's another reason why I played the under of the game, because you can look at the other side. Sean Miller, in his first game with Texas, has had to mix in a bunch of new kids and a bunch of transfers. So to me, this game is going to be a feeling out process. So if you have a feeling out process of two teams, then you start to look at the defensive matchups and try to slow the game down. I would be shocked if this game got off to a flying start. I expect it to be slowed down. It's going to be a lot of punch, counter punch, figuring out your bench, figuring out your rotations for a big early season test. I give credit for these two teams to play each other, kind of like Arizona and Florida did, to play opening night.
Yeah.
You're not playing no D2 or no D3 team. Go play someone opening night. I give both teams credit for doing that.
I could not agree more. I think it is important. And college basketball, not everyone plays a huge game night one, but it allows that first month to have a lot of good matchups. JY, like you said, MSG, Bama, and St. John's. Let's get into the NBA and Tier 2 of the college football playoff contender ranking next. There's a far longer track record of the Chiefs laying huge numbers and not covering them with Mahomes than anything on the contrary.
And they did that a lot last year where they didn't cover those numbers, but a lot of the time last year they didn't have Rice and they weren't fully healthy, and now they are fully healthy. And now we have an offense that has 4 viable receivers, 2 tight ends, and 2 running backs.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think if you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in, Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz. Only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in the football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, you know, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor, because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions. We are here with you on a Tuesday night, getting ready for the College Football Playoff Committee to unveil their tiers. We did tier number 1. We now get to tier number 2. A win away, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia. Aggies fans and backers, I am not being mean. I know you think you belong in the already in tier. You play at Mizzou and at Texas. If you lost both, it gets muddy. If you beat Mizzou, you're home free. But if you lost to Mizzou and Texas and you lose 2 of your final 4 and things are crowded in the SEC, I don't think it's a guarantee. So that's all I'm saying. I think the Aggies will be in. I think they'll beat Mizzou. But you're a win away. So is Alabama. Now, they just have to win one of these next 2 games at home against LSU or OU. They could lose either one. As long as they win one, they're in. Eastern Illinois, come on. And I know Auburn, Iron Bowl, the road, Kalen DeBoer with a trip to the playoff on the line, would not lose in that finale. Bama's a win away, and the Bulldogs are a win away for Georgia. And it's not this week with Miss State. It'd be a stunner if they lost it. Things get crazy if they do. You're home against Texas. Longhorns are off a bye. Their season could be on the line. And you play Georgia Tech in the finale, who this year, I think there's a smaller gap between than there was last, and they nearly knocked you off. All 3 teams very likely to be in, but they're a win away from getting in to the college football playoff. Playoffs? NBA, we're not talking playoffs. We're talking regular season, and we're talking it with Coach James Young here on SportsGrid, host of Pro Basketball Today and College Basketball Today. JY, the association tonight gives us a very interesting card. Tell me, where does your card begin on this Tuesday?
Let's go to the prop market. Kyle Kuzma over 9.5 points. Over his last 3 games, starting to find a little bit of a rhythm here in regards to coming off the bench. Toronto, bottom 10, the most defensive matrix. They don't really stop anyone. Over 4 of the last 5, I went with Kuz over 9.5 points. Assists, I'm going to pay a little bit of juice here, and I was shocked it was this low. Kawhi Leonard over 2.5 assists. That's about minus 150, 152. Over 4 to 6 games to start this season. And if you look at a comparable player, try to find someone, Kev, that got about the same amount of usage rate. That's Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine got to 3. And this guy is better than Zach LaVine. So he should be able to get to 3, if not 4 assists for a team in the Clippers that's been up and down. And Tyrese Maxey over 7.5 assists. Over 4 of the last 5 games. Embiid should be back tonight. And I looked at Chicago Bulls team, a team that's going to run up and down. I look at that team. I don't see anybody on the other side that can really stop Maxey. I think it's going, but he creates for other. Give me Tyrese Maxey over 7.5 assists.
JY, where are you at on the Sixers team potentially bringing back and very likely bringing back Jared McCain tonight? I think it's going to be really interesting because he was going to potentially be your rookie of the year, but it was because he had a high usage through all those injuries. Jared McCain is walking back into a very different Sixers team than he played for last season.
Yeah, I mean, not just the fact that VJ Edgecombe, but Quentin Grimes came over in a trade as well. So you got to figure out how they want to work that lineup, Kevin. If they want to go to 3-guard lineup, VJ's so athletic enough, Kevin. I wonder if there's times you can go 3-guard lineup and put Kelly Oubre at the 4 and kind of go really small ball and really try to attack teams, especially if they don't have a 5, especially if it's like they're not playing the Knicks where it's like Cat will try and bully ball Oubre. So that's something that Nick Nurse can play with matchups with. But one also thing I liked about the Sixers tonight, Kev, I like their team total over 119.5 versus Chicago. Right? They're going over 4 of the last 5 games. Chicago's allowed 3 of the last 4 opponents to go over this. Chicago is going to want to play with pace. And I just think Philadelphia, even when Embiid in the lineup, will look to push the ball. I love them to go over 119.5 tonight. And I think they went outright versus the Bulls.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see if Chicago can keep this up. They surprised me by beating the Knicks in that first Cup game, but maybe some of that has to do with how the Knicks are, and I don't know if it's time for JY and I to fully open the Pandora's box that is the start to this New York Knicks season.
Oh,
JY,
we can open it.
No. I know we can, but they're not playing, and I'm going to be honest. Here's what will happen. I think Coach will say a lot of level-headed things, and then I'm just going to get angry about Brunson, and I just don't think we should do it today. But we'll do it. I promise we'll do it another day.
Coming soon.
Yes, a tease for maybe next week. I don't know, but we'll get to it when we get to it.
Maybe K-Dub should come on. Maybe K-Dub should come on Pro Basketball Today as a guest, and we get into it. Huh?
It's fine. We'll have you reach out to my team. Raptors Bucks. JY, is this a game that you're betting as Giannis Antetokounmpo last night walks it off with a game winner against the Pacers, and it's certainly off to an MVP caliber start this season?
No, to me it was just Kuzma that I was on, but 2 games I am on, and I'm sure it moved a little bit with the Zion injury. I'm going to take the Hornets on the money line to beat the Pelicans. I know, no Brandon Miller. I know both teams are banged up. but they are a hot mess. Grounded, I call it grounded Pelican. No more fly Pelican. It's down Pelican. I'm going to take the Hornets on the money line for a team that I think is playing a little bit better than what people think. Other game, really quick. OKC minus a point versus the Clippers, undefeated. You have fun. Take a talk. Last segment. Mitchell, they keep getting guys. Like they pull a guy. Like to me, all these guys are hurt, and the guys that aren't playing well are Dorton Caruso, and it's like they don't even need him right now because everybody else is giving him something. Clippers are up and down. Second leg of a back-to-back. All four get to spread the last 4 games. I'm laying the 7.5 for the Thunder tonight.
Here's my question to you on OKC. It's the same question I asked to Brian. How many games in a row do the Thunder have to win to start this season for the conversation to be like, when are they going to lose? When is that going to become like a 11-0, 14-0? Like, when does that get to a fever pitch?
Well, listen, they're going to get Chet back soon. So I say if they get to 10, 11-0, and then all of a sudden J-Dub starts rolling around the corner and he's in the lineup, then you start looking at 73 wins. You start looking at possibly coaching for Mark Daigneault. And I think the only way he gets it is if they get about 67, 68 wins or north of that.
Oh, you better believe we've been talking about that possibility here on Game Time Decisions. My man, Coach James Young. Of course, folks, college basketball today, pro basketball today, get in the mix. We'll be back with Tier 3. There's a far longer track record of the Chiefs laying huge numbers and not covering them with Mahomes than anything on the contrary.
And they did that a lot last year where they didn't cover those numbers, but a lot of the time last year they didn't have Rice and they weren't fully healthy, and now they are fully healthy. And now we have an offense that has 4 viable receivers, 2 tight ends, and 2 running backs.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think if you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in, Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in the football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, you know, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Game Time Decisions on a Tuesday night. College football playoff is unveiled. The first rankings from the committee. Hate to steal their thunder, but quite frankly, what's the point when we're doing our Kevin 7, the college football playoff contender tiers? We've done tier number 1. We've done tier number 2. We get now to tier number 3. It's a better playoff with you. Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, and Texas. I don't know if any of these teams will make it, but it's a better playoff if they do. Notre Dame controls their destiny. If they are 10-2, they are in. But it's a lot to ask a team to win 10 in a row, run the table. They still have to play Navy, who can be dangerous, Pittsburgh and Narduzzi, who are upset machines. I think they're going to be fine if they get through those games. But then again, last year's Notre Dame team made the national championship game and lost to NIU. So maybe Cuse or Stanford could give them the scare of their life. Notre Dame is one of the 6 best teams in college football. They are. It's clear as day. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows they belong in the playoff, but they gave themselves no breathing room. It's a better playoff if they're in. I've come around on Oklahoma. I feel that they proved a lot in that win against Tennessee last week. They were the better team. They were right there with Ole Miss. I know they were home. You could ask yourself, what if Mateer was never injured? I don't know if Oklahoma's going to get there. If they lose at Bama in their next game, that might be curtains. And then they still have to play Mizzou and LSU, and those aren't walkover spots. But Oklahoma, I think, can play with anybody in the country. That defense is great, and Mateer is getting better by the week as he gets back and healthier and healthier. Oklahoma gives us a better playoff if they are in. And so does Vanderbilt. And not just like, oh, shucks, Vandy's cute. Vandy's good. They are. The 2 losses are at Bama and at Texas. There's no shame in that. Against Alabama, they found themselves winning that football game 14-7 into the second quarter. That game was tied going into the second half. Yeah, it looks worse because Jam Miller didn't slide. So instead of losing by 9, it was by 16. But Vanderbilt nearly pulled off this miracle comeback against Texas. Pavia and Clark Lee have made them a fun group. And they are covering machines as dogs. They are. You get them into the playoff, they will be barking. It's a better playoff if they're in. And it is if Texas. If Texas is in the playoff, first of all, they'll deserve it. Their losses are at Florida and at Ohio State. There's no shame in their game. If they run the table, I promise you they're in, because that means they beat Georgia and A&M. I think Texas is the number 1 overall draft pick of 3-loss team who will have a case if they are finished this season with 3 losses. Arch Manning has back-to-back games with 300 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns. He's starting to figure it out. Hate him or love him, fade him or back him. If Texas is in, the playoff is better. Tier 4. Big Ten hopefuls. Oregon, USC, Washington, and Michigan. The Ducks are the number 6 team in the AP poll. They will be around that tonight by the committee. They are no lock. They go to Iowa this weekend, under a touchdown. They host USC, projects under a touchdown. They go to Washington, final game of the season, projects under a touchdown. Is Dante Moore healthy? I don't know. Is Dante Moore good? I don't know. The Penn State win has aged like milk. Indiana dominated them in their own building. What is the best win on this Oregon schedule? Oklahoma State 69-3? They could lose multiple games. That might open the door for USC or Washington, but they have to handle business. And Lincoln Riley and this UW team are not upset-proof, but the path is there. That's exciting. UW sits better than 10-1. It's on the board. They're all connected. Michigan isn't connected. For Michigan, this is very, very simple. Do what you always do, and we'll see you there. Beat Northwestern, beat Maryland, and beat Ohio State. Easier said than done, except much worse Michigan teams have been able to do this. And if Michigan wins out, not only at 10-2 will the resume all of a sudden be there, I think they would end up taking Ohio State's spot in the Big Ten title game. At which point, we're going to have some crazy conversations on if they lose, do they still get in at 10-3? Probably. We may have even crazier conversations on, does 11-2 Big Ten Michigan go from not in to the number 1 team in the country? We're through 4. We got 3 to go. We're back in right here on SportsGrid. There's a far longer track record of the Chiefs laying huge numbers and not covering them with Mahomes than anything on the contrary.
And they did that a lot last year where they didn't cover those numbers, but a lot of the time last year they didn't have Rice and they weren't fully healthy, and now they are fully healthy. And now we have an offense that has 4 viable receivers, 2 tight ends, and 2 running backs.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think if you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in, Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz. Only on SportsGrid.
The governor calls you out in the football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, you know, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions. We are back with you on a Tuesday night. We've got a lot to settle up. We got a lot to get you ready for, including the College Football Playoff Committee's rankings. We've done 4 tiers already, 3 to go. Let's give you another one. It's pretty straightforward. Tier number 5, please don't let BYU make the playoff. Texas Tech, Utah, and BYU. BYU is not good. The books are telling you that clear as day. They are catching 10.5 this week despite being higher ranked than Texas Tech. They were outgained by 100 when they beat Utah. Both of those teams are much better. The playoff is better if the Big 12 is represented by Texas Tech or Utah. It's on the board. Both Texas Tech and Utah could make it. It is sadly on the board that BYU could make it. No, thank you. Please don't let BYU in. Big 12, I'm backing you. Texas Tech looks like a wagon. AJ in the back's got a big-time ticket on him. Listen, we'll root it in. Don't let BYU in. It would start this week. Texas Tech has to handle business. They're laying 10.5. Game day's going. It tells you everything you need to know. Speaking of need to know, we need to know what Brady Cannon thinks about Week 10 in the National Football League, which is why he is here, as always, on a Tuesday. Brady, great to check in with you.
Yeah, you bet, my friend. Week 9 was pretty interesting. Finally, the dogs barked, right?
Yes.
We had the favorites dominating Week 6, Week 7, and then really just absolutely across the board, nothing but favorites in multi-possession victory margin in Week 9. And then finally, and it was an awful week for the sports books. And I think you and I talked about this last week. I'm typically liking to be on the side of the house, which more often than not is underdogs and unders. We know that. The general public typically likes to bet favorites and over. And when the favorite and over is cashing all the time, it hurts the books. But everybody got healthy last week, including myself and our contest team. Very advantageous week for us in the contest. And the Westgate Superbook, the consensus picks, the top 5 picks went 1-4, and we went 5-0.
Heck
so
yeah.
When the majority has, when you're almost flipping the script entirely versus the majority, that's how you make your way up the leaderboard.
Well, you know what then, Brady? Because I think I'm fascinated in it, so I hope that means everyone then watching is as well. Can you give me an idea what those 5 picks looked like there? Just maybe some of the process on getting to those selections and how that may then influence you guys moving at least into this Week 10?
Well, we were on the Carolina Panthers because of the scheduling spot for Green Bay. First of all, it's a big point spread, but also the scheduling spot for Green Bay off of that amazing performance on Sunday night, now going to Monday night to take the Eagles. That was a total sandwich spot for Carolina. The 49ers were one of our plays. I just felt that they were going to win that game. I think they're the better team, and you were laying less than a field goal. And we saw it kind of shaded towards the 3. It was a strong 2.5 and never quite got to 3 like I thought it would. Let's see, who else did we take? Oh my goodness. We took the Raiders. We took the Raiders getting 3 points, and that one was awful sweaty for a while. Yeah, right. You know what? Both a fan and as a bettor, I'm glad Pete Carroll went for 2. You know, there's no reason to tie that game and try and extend this thing. Let's go win it, for God's sakes, Raiders. And, you know, they came up short, but again, at least they went for it. And that also allowed us to cover the spread. Let's see. Who else did we have last week? I think
one thing, though, that Brady, that stands out, you mentioned kind of the schedule spots, and I think that
we had the Bills. Sorry.
No,
the Bills.
Listen, but even, you know,
and the Seahawks.
Well, that's Seattle team.
Yeah, they're tough.
So let's stick with that Seattle team then, because they play in what looks like a pretty advantageous schedule spot against Arizona. Cardinals are coming off of Monday night. Seattle's back at home. But the deal with the Seahawks right now is, and these are things books I think typically would rather stick with their baseline, but if this team's on the road, don't bake in home field advantage for the other team. They're unbeaten on the road this year. It's been a dominant stretch under Mike McDonald in that fashion. At home, they're a 500 football team, and they're going to play Kyler Murray, who I last night faded, Brady, because to me, I don't think over the long term he's better than Jacoby Brissett is better than Kyler Murray. Well, I now have to change my position because the Cardinals just told me to change my position. They just told me Jacoby Brissett, it's not that he's worse than Kyler. They're telling us, Brady, that he's better than Kyler Murray.
Well, I think he makes a lot of sense for their team right now, and I don't know if it's just his ability on the field. I also tend to think it's a little bit of his attitude. You know, we've seen Kyler Murray pout when things go south. We've had his offseason, contract negotiations, and he just doesn't – it doesn't always seem like Kyler Murray is all about the team, but more is all about Kyler Murray. And I think that shows up on the field when things aren't going well for the Arizona Cardinals. And that's really what we saw in that 5-game losing streak. Brissett looked great. And again, who can't look great against the Cowboys defense? Marvin Harrison Jr., I mean, you name it. Everybody looks good against that defense. But, they've also explained that this is a foot injury for Murray that's going to take more time. I wouldn't be surprised. I thought he might be dealt before the deadline. But,
I did too.
There's so much to assume. There's so much to swallow with that contract. I think he is going to be gone in the offseason. He's a good player. At times he can be electric, but I don't think he's going to take them, where they eventually want to go. I made this number with the Seahawks 5, and it pretty much opened 6 or 6.5. I have to believe, what we saw with Arizona, and we've talked about this many times, Kevin. They were on a 5-game losing streak heading into their bye. And we know the bye is a great remedy to get things right. And obviously it was last night. They blew the doors off the Cowboys. Their defensive coordinator really figured things out. He did a great job. The offense was working. They were clicking. We didn't necessarily not expect that. But I also believe that they were probably making some plans for this game too during their bye week because it's on a short week and it's because it's a division game. I imagine there was a few wrinkles that were practiced during that bye week for this contest as well. So the 6.5 versus my 5, I think I'm kind of, factoring in that there could have been some preparation for this game prior to where we are now.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things, Brady, just kind of talking about deals that were done or not done today, the coaches get fired spot, right? I know people talk a lot about within this league. I'm curious. You look at today and the deals that are done and the decisions that were made by these franchises, like for the New York Jets, I would imagine, power ratings have to shift. They got worse, but that line has moved considerably now against Cleveland. That's gone from, I think, a 1.5 Jets line to a 2.5 Cleveland line. Spot-wise, I wonder if it's a 1-week get-up spot for New York, because we sometimes see that, that'll happen in the NBA with an injury. I think that makes that game really tricky now for week number 10.
Totally agree with you. Do these players respond like, hey, I got to protect my own livelihood? They just got rid of the two best guys on the team. My job could be gone tomorrow if I don't perform. So there's that type of reaction for sure. Now, on the other hand, the Jets are also coming off of a crazy win, their first win of the season. Do they let down off of that versus a team that's off of a bye that, had a tough loss? Myles Garrett went nuts, but they still, the rest of the team was the Cleveland Browns. I made the number 1, and yeah, it opened up 2, or there's some 2.5s, I'm sure, because of these two players. Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams, I figure, are probably worth a point apiece. So a 2-point move, I think, is very accurate. Do I want to bet on this game? I'm not so sure, but you're right. It's a very interesting situation.
No doubt about it. We're going to continue to get into this slate with Brady. There is also some golf coming up here for the people that we can talk about. And we will button up the college football playoff contender tiers as well. We are through 5. There are 2 remaining. Tonight, the committee will unveil their first of the season, top 25. It is an exercise that I flatly despise and I do not think should exist. I do not understand how college basketball is aware. We'll give it to you once and football is not. But it does and it matters. So we'll tear it out here on Game Time Decisions after the break. There's a far longer track record of the Chiefs laying huge numbers and not covering them with Mahomes than anything on the contrary.
And they did that a lot last year where they didn't cover those numbers, but a lot of the time last year they didn't have Rice and they weren't fully healthy, and now they are fully healthy. And now we have an offense that has 4 viable receivers, 2 tight ends, and 2 running backs.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think if you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in, Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in a football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Game Time Decisions. We are here with you on a Tuesday night. We have a lot doing. What I want to give everybody, though, are the final 2 tiers from the college football playoff contender tiers. Tier 1 already in. Tier 2 will win away. Tier 3, it's a better playoff with you. Tier number 4, Big Ten hopefuls. Tier 5, please don't let BYU make the playoff. These final 2, very simple. G5 contenders. There are a few. It's the 3 teams at the top of the American: Memphis, North Texas, South Florida. If those teams beat each other up, JMU is most likely to take advantage and capitalize. That Louisville loss is not a bad loss. It was closer than it looks. If JMU slips up and the American knocks each other out, San Diego State, to me, then, is the team lurking as a potential 12-1 Mountain West champion. But their loss is bad, and they have no good wins because the Mountain West is just awful this season. Boise State's a total disaster. And lastly, ACC champion, TBD. The ACC is a total mess. None of the teams are good. They gave it up. They eliminated all chances. They eliminated all chances for them to have multiple bids with the losses for Miami and Georgia Tech. Virginia is unbeaten in the conference, and they have like the fourth best odds to win it because Virginia's not good. Duke's the favorite. Okay, sure. Georgia Tech, maybe. Listen, someone from the ACC will make it, and then they'll be eliminated in their first game. That's the way it's going to go. Don't be upset at me, ACC. It's not my fault. I'm not coaching any of these teams. We're here with Brady Cannon, though, on a Tuesday night. Always great to talk to Brady about what is coming up in the NFL this weekend. And, Brady, one game that's really interesting to me is the matchup between the Rams and the Niners. They've played this season, and the LA Rams laid a big-time number and lost at home in overtime. So the books responded. They play this weekend in San Francisco. 3.5-point number. In what I am starting to think the books see as not just the best team in the NFC. I think the books may think the Rams are the best team in football. I'm not positive, but that is a strong number in San Francisco.
No doubt about it. The Rams are really good, and they had no problem covering the number. A 14-point spread that, probably got to 15 in some spots against the New Orleans Saints last week. And I said it. I think I said it here with you. I'd probably lay it before I took it. The Rams are very good. They have a great pass rush. They're good on defense. You've got Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. Matthew Stafford, I just have so much respect for this guy. I love watching him. And how old is he? I don't even know, and he continues to do it. He's great. Their coach is great. Yeah, they're for real. And San Francisco, you got to hand it to them too. And Kyle Shanahan. I mean, these guys are doing it with hardly any, buddy healthy, and they're still 6-3, and they still look good doing it. This is going to be difficult. Obviously, the Rams will be out for revenge. I made the number 4, so I was very close. But I did just read a report that one of the managers from the risk department at the Westgate Superbook here in town felt that the Rams would be a very public side. And I can understand that because the revenge factor. Oh, boy, they're going to want to get after the Niners after they, upset them, earlier this season and yada, yada, yada. But the truth is, Kyle Shanahan has owned Sean McVay.
Yeah, he has.
Their time together when he's been coach of the Niners and McVay's been at the Rams. I mean, it's really lopsided. I want to say it's like 8-2 or I don't know what, maybe 9-3 or something like that. So I think 3 and a hook might, I got a feeling this game might close 3. So if you can get better than 3 at this point, I think it's a take with the dog.
I'm curious, Brady, then if this other game came up, it's going to be heavily bet. It's Monday night. If not, maybe just what you then made the game. Green Bay laying 2.5 to the Eagles. It's so interesting because you have this storm of the Packers losing outright to Carolina and Philly's off by just kind of like 2 easy bullet points I am sure you will see people bring up to get to Philadelphia. What did you make of that game?
I made it exactly 2.5 in favor of the Packers, but I would probably take Philadelphia as well. I think there were some books that opened at 3 and they immediately took a hit with Philadelphia. If you can get a 3, I think the Eagles are a great bet. I think that buys a big deal. Now, Philadelphia, when they have faced a really good defense this year, that being the Denver Broncos, they lost. This is a pretty darn good defense in Green Bay as well, who is, like you say, off of a loss that they were probably looking ahead to this game in large part, and part of the reason why they lost. But I think I would have to take the points with the Eagles here. And I don't know if I'll be betting this game, but that's my initial reaction at this point early in the week, Kevin.
Yeah, it's one that I expected to be 2.5 as well. I think the way my brain works, Green Bay losing to Carolina does not make me want to bet Philadelphia more. For a lot of people, it will. That is the exact opposite of how my brain works, though, and makes that a very, very tricky Monday night special. Brady, before we let you get out of here, you did let me know some golf coming up. Sneaks up on me every single week. What do you have for us?
Well, it's not going to sneak up on you anymore. We've got 3 weeks in a row. These are the final 3 weeks of the FedEx Cup fall. And these PGA Tour players, they're playing for their jobs right now. You have to be ranked 100th or better in the FedEx Cup standings when we get to the RSM Classic, which is 3 weeks away, just before Thanksgiving. And if you aren't in that top 100, then you don't have PGA Tour status in 2026. So a lot on the line. There's not a lot of household names in these fields, but these guys are amazing players, and we can still bet on it. I took, this is a Tiger Woods design in Cabo San Lucas, so why not take a couple of guys that also went to Stanford? Michael Thorbjornsen at 24-1 and Isaiah Salinda at 105-1. Those are a couple Stanford Cardinals that I think make some sense here. Justin Lauer I've seen him as low as like 50 or 60-1, and there's some books that have him at triple digits. He finished third a couple weeks ago in Utah, and he's done very well at these courses in Mexico and these coastal designs that have a lot of similarities. Justin Lauer, Ben Coles at 115-1, Matty Schmid at 105-1, and then Garrick Higo, who went to UNLV here locally, the South African, at 24-1. So a couple of guys in the neighborhood of 25-1, and then 4 guys that are triple-digit bombs. This is the Worldwide Technologies Championship in Cabo San Lucas at Tiger Woods' design. The 3rd year it's now been a part of the PGA Tour rotation.
Awesome as always. I'll say this. Brady is a pro. He's been doing it a long time. I don't know if this is true to pros, but to me it is. I was going to bet the over in the Kentucky game. It's 30 points lower live, which means I won because I didn't bet it. We'll be right back. There's a far longer track record of the Chiefs laying huge numbers and not covering them with Mahomes than anything on the contrary.
And they did that a lot last year where they didn't cover those numbers, but a lot of the time last year they didn't have Rice and they weren't fully healthy, and now they are fully healthy. And now we have an offense that has 4 viable receivers, 2 tight ends, and 2 running backs.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in. Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz. Only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in the football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions, closing it out on a Tuesday night. In-game live is next, and we will update your live board and give you our final best bets and everything that you need heading into that show. But before we do that, the college football playoff rankings are coming out within the next probably 10, 15 minutes time. I decided tonight for Kevin 7, we would do the tiers of the college football playoff contenders. So let's go through it in its totality one final time. Tier number 1 already in. Ohio State, Indiana, Ole Miss. All of these teams will be there. You can book it. We will be breaking down and betting their college football playoff games. Tier 2 will win away. Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia. A&M has a case that they belong up a tier. If they beat Mizzou, they absolutely are settled and fine. Bama and Georgia each have a loss. They can get 2. They can't have 3. They're a win away. Tier 3, it's a better playoff with you. Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, Texas. I would love to watch all of these teams in the playoff. I think they could all win a game, if not more. They all also probably can't afford another loss. They may all miss. They probably can't all make, but it would be great if they did. It's a better playoff with them in. Big Ten hopefuls, Oregon, USC, Washington, Michigan. Michigan's in their own bubble. They have to win out, which means beat Ohio State again, but they're at home, and they've been doing it year in and year out. Oregon, USC, and Washington, the old Pac-12, they still have a lot of games kind of against one another. Oregon this weekend plays Iowa, a loss there, and things get spooky in Eugene. But they all have a chance to make the playoff. Please don't let BYU in the playoff. They're not good. I'm not being mean. We know this, though. We see a team like this year in, year out. That's who BYU is. Texas Tech is really good. Utah is playing awesome football. That would be a great Big 12 title game. Maybe they both get into the Big 12. I'm not hating on the Big 12. I'm hating on BYU. One of those teams is going to make the playoff. Maybe 2. Hopefully not BYU. Group of 5 contenders. Only one spot for the G5 this year. We know that. The American is most likely to take it with either Memphis, North Texas, or South Florida. I think any of them would be fun to watch. JMU, if they make it, that's electric for the show. So we rooted in family style. If all 4 of them mess it up, it's probably the Aztecs then who catch that falling knife at a big time 13-1. Longest team I was willing to put into the tiers was San Diego State. And then the ACC champion is our final tier, TBD. There's no teams. I'm not listing out the 6 teams with 1 loss. Are any of them good? Probably not. Who's the best right now? I don't know. Louisville, I think, with Miller Moss and Jeff Brom. I don't love it. But ACC champion is going to be in the playoff. Those are the tiers for the College Football Playoff Committee. If anyone makes the playoff that we did not tier tonight, that's a bad job out of me. I don't expect that to happen. Those are your college football tiers. Let's close it out. Best bets, action, live updates, everything that you need. I mentioned Kentucky Nichols. That total kept running, 155.5, went to 56.5, 157.5 to 158.5. It is 28-15 at the break. The live total is 124.5. Nichols is 3 of 25 from the floor and 1 for 14 from 3. Kentucky might beat them by $1 billion in the second half because Kentucky's playing terribly. But at some point, you would imagine that'll flip. Purdue's up 30 right now, 61-31 on Evansville with about 10 minutes to go there in the second half. Texas Tech and Duke, late night ranked action. Duke lays 10.5 to Texas. AJ's best bet is taking in that game with the Longhorns. I do not mind that look. We get the debut of the Boozer twins tonight. Update on the College Board. Where's all those points? They're in Akron, UMass. They are not in Ohio, Miami of Ohio. Scoreless in Ohio, Miami of Ohio. MacMan in the back said these games look a little too high. Left the under on the floor, said, give me the UMass. And I got to tell you, I couldn't be happier he did because I won't watch this game, but I'll know the result of it. And I'm rooting in that UMass ticket. First play, first snap over the quarterback's head. Fired up from action. That's buy-in from a program that we love to see. We're rooting them in. Plenty live on the ice right now. Canes up early on the Rags because they can't score at home. Scoreless in the Mammoth game. I mean, cut it out with this Mammoth name. We need to fix that. Flyers up all over on Montreal. Scoreless Bruins Isles. The Association, Giannis not doing much early. King of the Court's wide open tonight. We're cornering the market in the Walsh household. SGA or Harden. If you know, you know. In-game live is next.